Captain Sarah Chen stared out into the vastness of space from the bridge of the EDS Resilience, Earth's first and only interstellar battleship. The stars glittered against the endless black like scattered diamonds on velvet. Sarah had spent 15 years in the Space Force, but the majesty of space still took her breath away. Today, however, she had no time to admire the view. Humanity's survival hung in the balance. "Status report," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension coiling in her stomach. Lieutenant James Harper, her tactical officer, looked up from his station. His eyes reflected the glow of the holographic display floating before him. "The alien fleet is maintaining position at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, Captain. All 57 vessels. They haven't moved since our last communication attempt." And still no response. Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. "No, ma'am." Complete radio silence. 3 weeks ago, the aliens had appeared without warning. Massive ships, each one dwarfing the largest vessels in Earth's fledgling space fleet, had emerged from what scientists were calling a spatial fold, a tear in the fabric of space itself. The sight had sent waves of panic across Earth. News feeds had been flooded with images of the strange biomechanical vessels hovering at the edges of our solar system. Governments worldwide had scrambled to respond, but in truth, humanity had no defense against such advanced technology, except, perhaps, for the Resilience. The ship had been a secret project, developed over the past decade using technology reverse-engineered from a crashed alien scout ship found in the Arctic. The Resilience was humanity's ace in the hole, a vessel that combined Earth's best engineering with alien tech we barely understood. It was a desperate gamble, but it was all they had. Sarah turned to her communications officer. "Try again, Lieutenant Rodriguez. All frequencies, all languages we've managed to decode from their previous transmissions." Rodriguez nodded, her fingers dancing across her console. "Broadcasting now, Captain." The bridge fell silent as they waited. Sarah could hear the soft hum of the ship's systems, the quiet breathing of her crew. These men and women were the best Earth had to offer. Scientists, soldiers, pilots, engineers, all chosen for this mission because they had nothing to lose and everything to give. "Captain," Harper's voice cut through the silence, urgent and tight. "They're moving." Sarah turned to the main view screen. The alien armada had indeed begun to move, their formation shifting into what appeared to be an attack pattern. "All hands to battle stations," Sarah ordered calmly. "Power up the main weapon system." Klaxons blared throughout the ship as crew members rushed to their positions. The Resilience had been built for this moment, a confrontation that would determine whether humanity would survive or join countless other species that had apparently fallen to these invaders. In the weeks leading up to this mission, intelligence gathered from intercepted alien communications had painted a grim picture. These beings, which some had taken to calling the harvesters, moved from system to system, stripping planets of resources and eliminating any sentient life they encountered. Earth was just the next target in a long line of conquests. "Weapon systems online," reported Commander Jack Wilson from Engineering. "The Excalibur cannon is charged to 85% and rising." The Excalibur was the Resilience's primary weapon, a massive energy cannon that utilized the mysterious element found in the crashed alien vessel. Scientists still didn't fully understand how it worked, but in tests, it had demonstrated power far beyond anything humanity had ever created. "Alien vessels are accelerating," Harper announced. "They'll be in weapons range in 3 minutes." Sarah took a deep breath. This would be humanity's first, and possibly last, interstellar battle. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on her shoulders like a physical force. "Open a channel to Earth Command," she ordered. Admiral Thompson's face appeared on the screen, his expression grave. "Captain Chen, I take it our visitors have made their intentions clear?" "Yes, sir. They're moving into attack formation. We're preparing to engage." The Admiral nodded slowly. "You understand what's at stake, Captain. The resilience is all that stands between Earth and total annihilation. The defensive grid isn't ready yet. We need more time. I understand, sir. We'll give you that time. Good luck, Captain. Earth stands with you. The transmission ended, and Sarah turned back to face her crew. She could see the fear in their eyes, but also determination. They all knew this might be a one-way mission. 2 minutes to contact, Harper announced. Sarah moved to the center of the bridge. Begin evasive pattern delta. Bring auxiliary power to shields. The resilience was greatly outnumbered, but it had two advantages. The element of surprise and technology the aliens wouldn't expect humans to possess. If the harvesters thought Earth would be an easy conquest, they were about to get a rude awakening. 1 minute, Captain. Sarah watched the alien ships grow larger on the view screen. Their design was unlike anything humans had conceived. Part machine, part biological, with structures that seemed to pulse and shift like living tissue. Beautiful and terrifying. Excalibur cannon at full charge, Wilson reported. Target the lead vessel, Sarah ordered. Let's show them Earth isn't defenseless. The bridge hummed with energy as the Resilience's main weapon powered up. Outside, the barrel of the massive cannon began to glow with an unearthly blue light. 30 seconds. Sarah gripped the railing in front of her. This was it. Humanity's stand against the darkness. Win or lose, they would not go quietly. Alien vessels launching smaller craft, Harper reported, his voice tense. Hundreds of them. Fighter squadrons, launch now, Sarah ordered. The Resilience carried 12 squadrons of fighters. Earth's best pilots in craft enhanced with alien technology. 15 seconds. Sarah watched as the first wave of Earth fighters streaked toward the oncoming alien swarm. David versus Goliath played out against the backdrop of space. Excalibur locked on target, Harper announced. Sarah took one last deep breath. Fire. The bridge shook as the Resilience discharged its main weapon. A brilliant beam of blue-white energy lanced out across the void, striking the lead alien vessel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, to the astonishment of everyone on the bridge, the massive alien ship began to break apart, fracturing like glass under the Excalibur's onslaught. The bridge erupted in cheers, but Sarah remained focused. This was just the beginning. 1 down, 56 to go, and the Excalibur would need time to recharge. As the alien armada recovered from the shock of losing their flagship, they accelerated toward the Resilience. The real battle for Earth's survival was about to begin. The brilliant flash of the destroyed alien flagship faded, leaving a scattered field of debris where the massive vessel had been. The bridge of the Resilience fell silent, the initial cheers giving way to a tense anticipation as the crew watched the remaining alien ships regroup. Excalibur recharge at 12%, Commander Wilson reported from engineering. His voice was steady but strained. We need at least 8 minutes before we can fire again. Sarah nodded grimly. We don't have 8 minutes. Lieutenant Harper, status of the alien fleet. Harper's fingers flew across his tactical display. They're splitting into 3 groups, Captain. 2 flanking formations, and 1 central thrust. They've adapted their approach already. They learned fast, Sarah muttered. That wasn't good. Their one advantage had been surprise, and they'd just lost it. Evasive pattern Omega. Rodriguez, signal our fighter squadrons to focus on the flanking vessels. We'll take the central group. As the Resilience banked hard, accelerating away from the oncoming alien armada, Sarah accessed her personal command display. The ship's AI brought up the personnel files of her senior staff. These were the people she was trusting with Earth's survival, and she needed to know they could handle what was coming. Harper had been naval intelligence before joining the Space Force, with a knack for predicting enemy movements that bordered on uncanny. Rodriguez had been a linguistics prodigy who spoke 7 Earth languages before being recruited to help decode the alien transmissions. Wilson was a nuclear engineer whose modifications to the alien power source had made the Excalibur possible in the first place. And then there was Dr. Elisa Nakamura, the ship's chief science officer, who had spent the past 5 years studying the alien technology. If anyone could find a weakness in the Harvester's defenses, it would be her. "Captain." Nakamura's voice came through the comm. "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the enemy vessels. They're charging weapons, but it's not like anything we've seen before." "Understood. Stay on it, Doctor." Sarah turned to Harper. "How long until they're in range?" 2 minutes, 40 seconds. Sarah made a quick decision. "All power to forward shields. Bring the point defense systems online." The sleek fighters of Earth's squadrons streaked past the view screen, engaging the smaller alien craft in a deadly dance. Pilots with thousands of hours in simulators were putting their training to the test against enemies who had conquered countless worlds. "Incoming transmission," Rodriguez announced, her eyes widening. "It's from the aliens." Sarah straightened. On screen, the main view screen flickered, and an image appeared that sent a chill down Sarah's spine. The alien that faced them was vaguely humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin was a pale blue-gray, stretched tight over a skeletal frame. Multiple sets of eyes blinked independently of each other around a circular head. When it spoke, its mouth didn't move. Instead, patterns of light pulsed across its throat. Humans. The alien's voice was translated by the ship's computers, sounding flat and artificial. "Your resistance is unexpected but futile. Your world has been marked for harvest. Surrender now, and a portion of your species will be preserved for study." Sarah stepped forward, meeting the alien's gaze without flinching. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Ship Resilience. We do not surrender our world or our people. We've shown you what we're capable of. Withdraw now, or face the consequences." The alien's eyes blinked in what might have been amusement. "Your vessel possesses technology beyond your understanding. Technology that belongs to us. The seed ship that crashed on your world was ours. You've merely been borrowing our power, and now we've come to reclaim it." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Seed ship," Lieutenant Rodriguez whispered. "They sent it deliberately." Sarah had no answer. The implications were staggering. Had Earth been set up? Was the crashed ship that had provided their technological leap forward actually a trap? "Alien vessels firing," Harper shouted, breaking the moment of shock. The Resilience shuddered as the first volley struck its shields. On the view screen, brilliant beams of energy lashed out from the alien vessels, converging on the Earth ship. "Shields holding at 82%, Wilson reported. "But they're targeting specific frequencies. They know exactly how our shields work." Of course they did, Sarah thought. If they'd provided the technology in the first place. "Bring us about. Target conventional weapons on the central group," she ordered. "Fighter squadrons, form up on our flanks." Sarah opened a channel to engineering. "Dr. Nakamura, I need options. If they provided our technology, they'll know its weaknesses." "I'm already on it, Captain," Nakamura replied, her voice tight with concentration. "But there's something else you should know. I've been analyzing the debris from the destroyed vessel. The technology isn't just similar to what we found in the Arctic. It's identical, not just inspired by it or compatible with it. Identical." Sarah processed this information as the ship shook under another barrage. "What are you saying, Doctor?" "I'm saying that the ship we found wasn't just related to these aliens. It was one of these aliens. And based on the composition of the debris, I think these ships are partially organic. They're alive, Captain." The revelation hit Sarah like a physical blow. Alive. They had been studying what amounted to a corpse for the past decade, reverse engineering technology from a dead alien being. The ethical implications were staggering, but there was no time to dwell on them now. "Excalibur at 40%, Wilson reported. "Not enough," Sarah said. "We need a different approach." She opened a shipwide channel. "All hands, prepare for close quarters engagement. Boarding teams, stand by." Her first officer, Commander David Reyes, looked at her in shock. "Captain, You're not suggesting. If their ships are alive, Commander, then they have vital systems we can target. Dr. Nakamura will guide our boarding teams to find critical points. We'll take the fight to them. It was a desperate gamble, but with the Excalibur still charging, and their conventional weapons barely making a dent in the alien shields, they needed to change tactics. Excalibur at 45%. Wilson updated. Continue charging, Sarah ordered. Harper, set course for the nearest alien vessel. Full speed. The Resilience surged forward, accelerating toward the massive alien ships. Around them, Earth's fighter squadrons regrouped, forming a protective screen around the battleship. Engineering, prepare the boarding pods, Sarah commanded. Dr. Nakamura, I want you to brief the boarding teams personally. If these ships are alive, find their equivalent of a nervous system or a heart. As the distance closed between the Resilience and the alien fleet, Sarah watched the tactical display with a mixture of determination and dread. They were about to attempt something no human had ever done before: board an alien vessel in the middle of combat. If Nakamura was right, and these ships were partially organic, they might find vulnerabilities that conventional weapons couldn't exploit. 1 minute to intercept, Harper announced. Sarah looked around at her bridge crew, meeting each of their eyes in turn. Whatever happens next, remember this: we are fighting for every human being on Earth. We are their shield and their sword, and we will not fail. The alien vessels loomed larger on the view screen, their strange biomechanical structures pulsing with otherworldly energy. The true nature of humanity's enemy was about to be revealed, and with it, perhaps, a path to victory. The boarding pods launched from the Resilience with a series of thunderous clanks that reverberated through the ship's hull. Sarah watched from the bridge as 12 sleek, black pods streaked toward the nearest alien vessel, each carrying 5 of Earth's most elite soldiers. Pods away, Commander Rice confirmed. ETA to contact is 30 seconds. Sarah nodded, her attention divided between the boarding operation and the ongoing space battle surrounding them. Earth's fighter squadrons were holding their own against the swarms of smaller alien craft, but the larger vessels were still approaching, their weapons charging for another devastating barrage. Excalibur at 63%. Wilson reported from engineering. Keep her charging, Sarah replied. We'll need it for our exit strategy. If they survived long enough to need one. The Resilience shuddered as another volley of alien energy weapons struck their shields. The lights flickered momentarily before stabilizing. Shields at 47%. Harper announced, his voice tight. 1 more hit like that, and we'll have breaches in sections 3 through 7. Sarah opened a channel to the boarding teams. Alpha through Delta squads, status report. Alpha squad approaching target, came the steady voice of Major Tom Walsh, leader of the boarding operation. No defensive fire yet. They either don't consider us a threat or don't know what we're doing. Stay alert, Major. Dr. Nakamura's data indicates you should target what appears to be a central nervous cluster near the core of the vessel. You'll know it when you see it. A nexus of bioluminescent tissue with mechanical interfaces. Copy that, Captain, Walsh responded. We're going in hot. On the tactical display, Sarah watched as the first pods made contact with the alien vessel's hull. Instead of the explosive breach they had planned for, something unexpected happened. The hull seemed to ripple and then part, allowing the pods to sink into the structure of the ship. Captain, the pods are being absorbed, Harper reported incredulously. Alpha Squad, report, Sarah demanded, her heart racing. Static hissed for several agonizing seconds before Walsh's voice broke through. We're inside, Captain. The hull just pulled us in. It's like nothing we've ever seen in here. The corridors, if you can call them that, they're organic, pulsing. Like we're inside some giant organism. Dr. Nakamura's voice cut in from the science lab. It makes sense, Captain. If the ships are partially biological, they might have defense mechanisms similar to an immune system. They're treating the pods like foreign bodies. Which means what for our teams? Sarah asked, dreading the answer. It means the ship knows they're there, and it will try to eliminate them. Nakamura replied grimly. Sarah turned to Harper. Get me visual from the squad leader's helmet cams. The main view screen split into 4 sections, each showing the feed from one of the squad leaders. The scenes were like something from a nightmare. The interior of the alien vessel was a maze of pulsating, translucent tissue interwoven with metallic structures. The lighting came from bioluminescent patches that cast an eerie blue glow over everything. And most disturbing of all, the corridors seemed to be constantly changing, shifting like a living labyrinth. All squads proceed with extreme caution, Sarah ordered. The ship is aware of your presence. As if to confirm her warning, the corridor ahead of Alpha Squad suddenly constricted, the walls closing in like a massive esophagus. The soldiers opened fire, their specialized weapons, designed based on alien technology, tearing into the living tissue. The ship responded with a sound that was half mechanical screech, half biological wail. It's working, Walsh shouted over the noise. The tissue is retreating. On another screen, Bravo Squad was encountering what looked like antibodies, floating spherical organisms that attacked by spraying some kind of corrosive substance. The squad's point man screamed as the liquid ate through his armor, but his teammates quickly destroyed the attackers with concentrated fire. Captain, we've got company, Rodriguez called out. 6 more alien vessels breaking from the main fleet, heading straight for us. They must have realized what the Resilience was attempting. Sarah made a split-second decision. Divert auxiliary power to engines. Harper, evasive pattern Sierra. We need to buy our teams more time. The Resilience banked hard, accelerating away from the approaching alien ships. Behind them, the vessel containing their boarding teams began to convulse, its outer hull rippling in what almost looked like pain. Excalibur at 78%, Wilson reported. Not enough, Sarah muttered. She opened the channel to the boarding teams again. All squads, you need to move faster. Head for the central nexus. Working on it, Captain, Walsh replied, his breathing labored. But this place is fighting us every step of the way. We've lost contact with Delta Squad, and Charlie is pinned down by some kind of internal defense mechanism. On Charlie Squad's feed, Sarah could see what looked like mechanical tentacles lashing out from the walls, grabbing soldiers and pulling them into the living tissue of the ship. It was horrifying and fascinating at the same time. The perfect fusion of machine and organism, each complementing the other's strengths. Bravo Squad, we found something, came the voice of Lieutenant Sophia Patel. Her camera showed what appeared to be a vast chamber, pulsing with energy. In the center floated a crystalline structure surrounded by a web of neural tissue. I think this is it, the brain or heart or whatever these things have. Alpha Squad, converge on Bravo's position, Walsh ordered. We'll set the charges together. Each boarding team carried a nuclear device, a last resort that Sarah had hoped they wouldn't need to use. But time was running out, and they needed a decisive blow. Back on the Resilience, the situation was growing dire. The alien pursuit vessels had closed the distance, their weapons beginning to tear through the already weakened shields. Shields at 23%. Harper announced as another hit rocked the ship. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 5. Emergency bulkheads holding. Sarah gripped the command chair as the ship shuddered around her. Status of our fighter squadrons. Half strength, Captain, Rodriguez replied. They're taking heavy losses, but they're still in the fight. On the main view screen, Sarah could see Earth's fighters darting between the massive alien vessels, firing at weak points and drawing fire away from the Resilience. These pilots knew they were likely on a one-way mission, yet they fought with unwavering courage. Captain, we've reached the central chamber, Walsh reported. Alpha and Bravo squads combined. We're setting the charges now. What about Charlie Squad? Sarah asked. A moment of silence. Lost, Captain. All of them. Sarah closed her eyes briefly, honoring their sacrifice. Understood, Major. Set the charges and get your people out of there. That might be a problem, Walsh replied, his voice suddenly tense. The ship is sealing off our escape routes. And Captain, we're not alone in here. The camera feed showed what Walsh was seeing. A group of the aliens, similar to the one they had seen in the transmission, emerging from recessed chambers around the central core. Unlike the digital image, in person they were even more unsettling, moving with a fluid grace that belied their skeletal appearance. They're coming toward us, Walsh reported, his rifle raised. At least a dozen of them. Sarah leaned forward. Major, your primary objective is to destroy that ship. Everything else is secondary. Understood, Captain. There was a finality in Walsh's voice that told Sarah he knew what this meant. Charges are set. 30 seconds to detonation. The aliens moved closer to the human soldiers, their multiple eyes blinking in what might have been curiosity. They'd made no aggressive moves, which somehow made the situation more unnerving. Excalibur at 92%, Wilson announced. Close enough, Sarah decided. Target the alien vessel as soon as our teams detonate their charges. We'll hit them with everything we've got while they're vulnerable. On the screen, Walsh and his remaining soldiers had formed a defensive circle around the charges. The aliens had stopped their advance, seemingly communicating among themselves through pulses of light that traveled across their bodies. 10 seconds to detonation. Walsh counted down. Captain, if we don't make it back, you'll be remembered. Major, Sarah promised. All of you. For Earth, Walsh said simply, as the aliens suddenly lunged forward in unison. The feed cut to static just as the charges reached zero. Outside, the alien vessel convulsed violently, its hull rupturing in multiple places as the nuclear device detonated at its core. Excalibur locked on target, Harper shouted. Sarah stood, her eyes fixed on the wounded alien ship. Fire. The Excalibur's beam lanced through space, striking the wounded alien vessel at the exact moment the nuclear detonation reached its peak. The combined force of the two weapons created an effect no one on the Resilience had anticipated. Instead of simply destroying the ship, the energies seemed to cascade through it, creating a chain reaction that spread to the nearest alien vessels. One by one, they began to shake and convulse as though seized by some terrible contagion. What's happening? Sarah demanded, gripping the edge of the command console as the Resilience shuddered from the shockwave of the first explosion. Dr. Nakamura's voice came through the comms, her words tumbling over each other in her excitement. Captain, the Excalibur's energy signature is propagating through their fleet. It's like we introduced a virus into their network. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as 3 more alien vessels erupted in brilliant explosions, their biomechanical structures tearing themselves apart from within. The remaining ships are retreating, Harper reported, disbelief coloring his voice. They're pulling back, Captain. A cheer started to rise from the bridge crew, but Sarah silenced them with a raised hand. Something wasn't right. The victory felt too easy, too sudden. After conquering countless worlds, would these advanced aliens really retreat after losing just a few ships? Any sign of our boarding teams? She asked, though she already knew the answer. Rodriguez shook her head solemnly. No emergency beacons, no comm signals. I'm sorry, Captain. Sarah allowed herself one moment of grief for the brave men and women who had sacrificed themselves, then refocused on the battle at hand. Maintain full alert. Wilson, what's the status of the Excalibur? Cycling down, Captain. We drained the capacitors completely with that shot. It'll be at least 30 minutes before we can fire again, even at minimal power. Half an hour with their primary weapon offline. Sarah didn't like those odds, especially given her gut feeling that this fight was far from over. Captain, Rodriguez called out suddenly, I'm picking up a transmission. It's coming from inside the destroyed alien vessel. Sarah's head snapped up. That's impossible. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers wasn't Major Walsh or any of the boarding team. It was a strange, multi-layered sound that seemed to be multiple voices speaking in perfect unison. "Human vessel," the voices said, each word precisely formed despite the alien origin. "You have exceeded expected parameters. The seed has borne unexpected fruit." Sarah exchanged glances with Commander Reyes before responding. "This is Captain Chen. Who am I speaking with?" "We are the Collective," the voices replied. "You have destroyed only vessels, not beings. We exist beyond physical form." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. "What do you mean?" "Your species was meant to advance enough to be worthy of harvest. The seed was planted to accelerate your development. But you have weaponized it beyond our projections. This is unprecedented." Dr. Nakamura burst onto the bridge, her lab coat flapping behind her as she rushed to Sarah's side. "Captain, I've been analyzing the data from the destroyed ships. They're not just alive. They're drones, extensions of a hive mind. The beings we saw weren't individuals. They were physical manifestations created to interact with three-dimensional space." Sarah tried to process this information as the Collective continued speaking. "The vessels you destroyed were mere fragments of a greater whole. Your weapon has created a temporary disruption in our network, but we are already adapting. You have merely postponed the inevitable." The tactical display suddenly lit up with new warnings. The retreating alien ships had stopped their withdrawal and were regrouping. But more alarming were the new signatures appearing at the edge of the solar system. Dozens, then hundreds of spatial folds opening to reveal more of the massive bioships. "My God," Harper whispered. "That's not a fleet. It's an invasion force." Sarah felt the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders. They had scored a victory, but in doing so, they had only revealed how vastly outmatched they truly were. "Captain," Dr. Nakamura said urgently, "when the Excalibur struck the ship after the nuclear detonation, it created a unique energy pattern I've never seen before. It didn't just destroy the ships, it disrupted the connection between the vessels and whatever is controlling them." "The Collective," Sarah murmured. "Yes, I think the ships aren't just tools or weapons. They're like nodes in a vast neural network. The Collective exists as a distributed consciousness across all of them." Sarah's mind raced with the implications. "So when we destroyed those ships, we didn't just destroy vessels," Nakamura finished. "We damaged part of their consciousness. That's why they retreated temporarily. They needed to reconfigure." The Collective's voice returned, but now there was something different about it. A subtle dissonance between the layers, as if the perfect unison had been disrupted. "Your understanding grows, but it changes nothing. We have consumed 1,000 worlds. Yours will be no different." Sarah turned to Dr. Nakamura. "If the Excalibur disrupted their network, can we amplify that effect? Create some kind of sustained interference?" Nakamura's eyes widened. "Theoretically, yes. We could modify the Excalibur to emit a continuous pulse rather than a single beam. But the power requirements would be enormous, and the emitter wasn't designed for sustained output. It would burn out quickly." "How quickly?" "Minutes at most, and we'd need to be much closer to their central ships to affect the entire network." Sarah looked at the tactical display, counting the new alien vessels still emerging from the spatial folds. Over 300 now, and still coming. Against one damaged Earth battleship. "Captain," Harper said quietly, "even if we could disrupt their network, we'd never make it out. It would be a suicide mission." Sarah nodded slowly. "I know, but if it gives Earth a chance." She straightened, her decision made. "Commander Wilson, begin the modifications to the Excalibur. Dr. Nakamura, I need you to identify which ship appears to be the primary node in their network." "Captain," Rise protested, "we should at least try to reach Earth Command. Let them know what we've discovered." "Send the data," Sarah agreed. "But we can't wait for orders. Not this time." As the crew rushed to carry out her commands, the Resilience shuddered again, struck by a volley from the nearest alien vessels. The shields, already weakened from the previous engagement, flickered dangerously. Shields at 11%, Harper reported. One more hit like that, and we're done. Sarah opened a shipwide channel. All hands, this is the captain. You've all performed beyond the call of duty, and I couldn't be prouder of this crew. But our mission isn't over. We've discovered a potential weakness in the enemy. And we have a chance, maybe our only chance, to give Earth the time it needs to prepare its defenses. She paused, knowing what she was asking of them. What we're about to attempt is likely a one-way trip. Anyone who wishes to leave in the remaining escape pods has my permission to do so. No one will think less of you. The rest of us will continue the fight. The ship fell silent as her words sank in. Then, one by one, department heads began reporting in. Engineering standing by, Captain. Medical staying put. Tactical ready for your orders. Not a single crew member opted to leave. Sarah felt a surge of pride mixed with sorrow. These were Earth's finest, and they deserved better than this. On the view screen, the alien armada continued to grow, their biomechanical ships forming a vast web in space. Behind them, barely visible at this distance, was Earth, a small blue marble that held everything these men and women were fighting for. Dr. Nakamura, have you identified the primary node? Sarah asked. Yes, Captain. It appears to be that larger vessel near the center of their formation. Its energy signature is different from the others. More complex, more integrated. Sarah studied the massive ship Nakamura had indicated. It was at least 3 times the size of the others. Its structure more intricate, with what looked like tendrils of energy connecting it to the surrounding vessels. That's our target, she said. Commander Wilson, status of the Excalibur modifications. We're rerouting power from all non-essential systems now, Captain. The sustained pulse will be ready in 3 minutes. Sarah nodded. Set course for the primary node, full speed. All weapons, target any vessel that gets in our way. As the Resilience surged forward toward the heart of the alien fleet, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if they were about to save humanity or merely delay the inevitable. Either way, the Harvesters were about to learn that Earth wouldn't fall without a fight. The Resilience plunged deeper into the heart of the alien armada, its engines straining at maximum capacity. Smaller alien vessels swarmed around them like antibodies attacking an invader, their weapons hammering relentlessly against the battleship's failing shields. Shields at 6%, Harper reported grimly as another impact rocked the bridge. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Emergency bulkheads holding, but barely. Sarah gripped her command chair, watching the massive alien node ship grow larger on the view screen. They were still too far away for the modified Excalibur to have the network-disrupting effect, Dr. Nakamura had theorized. They needed to get closer, much closer. Reroute life support power from unoccupied sections to the shields, Sarah ordered, and get me a status on the Excalibur. Modifications complete, Captain. Wilson's strained voice came through the comms. But the cooling system is already showing signs of stress. Once we activate the sustained pulse, we'll have maybe 5 minutes before the whole system melts down. 5 minutes. It would have to be enough. All fighters, form up on our flanks. Sarah commanded. Create a corridor for us to reach that node ship. Earth's remaining fighter squadrons, now reduced to barely 20 vessels, moved into position around the Resilience. These pilots knew they were the last line of defense, not just for the battleship, but for humanity itself. Captain, Rodriguez called out urgently. I'm picking up a transmission from Earth Command. Sarah nodded. Put it through. Admiral Thompson's face appeared on a side screen, his expression a mixture of pride and sorrow. Captain Chen, we've received your data on the alien collective. Our scientists confirm Dr. Nakamura's theory. Disrupt the network, and we might stand a chance. We're attempting exactly that, Admiral. Sarah replied, trying to keep her voice steady as another impact shook the ship. I know, Thompson said quietly. And I wish I could offer you reinforcements, but... He hesitated. There's something you should know. The defensive grid we've been building. It's not just shields. Based on the technology from the crashed ship, we've been constructing our own version of the Excalibur, a planetary defense cannon. Sarah felt a surge of hope. Is it operational? Not yet. We need more time. Days, not hours. Thompson's eyes met hers through the screen. What you're doing out there, it could make all the difference. Sarah understood what remained unspoken. If the resilience could destabilize the alien network, even temporarily, it might give Earth the time it needed to complete its defenses. We won't let you down, Admiral. Godspeed, Captain. Earth stands with you. As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her crew. You heard the Admiral. What we do in the next few minutes could determine the fate of our planet. Let's make it count. The Resilience shuddered violently as a particularly powerful blast struck its port side. Direct hit, Harper shouted. Shields down to 3%. Distance to target, Sarah demanded. 30,000 kilometers in closing, Rise reported. But at this rate, we'll never make it close enough before the shields fail completely. Sarah studied the tactical display, calculating angles and trajectories. There was one possibility, but it would require perfect timing and more than a little luck. New course, she ordered. Take us through that debris field from the destroyed alien vessels. Rise looked at her in surprise. Captain, the radiation levels in that debris are off the charts. It could compromise our systems. It'll compromise theirs too, Sarah replied. The residual energy from the Excalibur's first shot is still active in that debris. It might provide us some cover and confusion. As the Resilience changed course, diving into the scattered remains of the destroyed alien ships, Sarah opened a channel to engineering. Dr. Nakamura, I need a favor from science. The alien tissue we recovered from the Arctic, you said it was self-repairing, right? Yes, Captain, Nakamura replied, sounding puzzled. When properly stimulated, it demonstrated remarkable regenerative properties. Could it potentially repair the Excalibur's cooling system? Buy us more time for the sustained pulse. There was a moment of silence as Nakamura considered the radical proposal. Theoretically, yes. We'd need to splice it directly into the cooling conduits, but the organic material might actually form a symbiotic relationship with our technology, just as it does in the alien vessels. Do it, Sarah ordered. Use whatever samples we have left. As the Resilience weaved through the debris field, the alien vessels seemed momentarily confused, their coordinated attacks becoming erratic. The radioactive remnants of their destroyed comrades were interfering with the network, just as Sarah had hoped. It's working, Harper reported, a note of surprise in his voice. They're holding back, trying to re-establish their connection. Press the advantage, Sarah commanded. Full speed to the node ship. The Resilience burst from the debris field, now much closer to its target. The massive node ship loomed ahead, its biomechanical structure pulsing with energy that connected to the surrounding vessels like a vast neural web. 15,000 kilometers, Rise announced. We're almost in range. Suddenly, the space around them lit up as dozens of alien vessels fired simultaneously, their beams converging on the Resilience from all directions. Brace for impact, Sarah shouted as the bridge crew grabbed hold of their stations. The combined force of the alien weapons struck the Resilience like a hammer blow. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks, and the lights flickered out, plunging the bridge into darkness before emergency power kicked in. Shields are gone, Harper reported, his face illuminated by the red emergency lighting. Hull integrity at 42% and falling. Casualties reported on all decks, Rodriguez added, her voice tight with pain as she nursed a burned arm. Sarah wiped blood from a cut on her forehead. Status of the Excalibur. Ready to fire, Captain. Wilson's voice came through, distorted by static. Dr. Nakamura's biomechanical patch is holding for now. We've got maybe 7 minutes before critical failure. That's all we need, Sarah said, turning to what remained of her bridge crew. Target the node ship and prepare to fire on my mark. The Resilience continued its desperate charge toward the node ship, now little more than a wounded animal racing toward its much larger prey. Pieces of the Earth battleship's hull were being torn away by the constant barrage of alien weapons, leaving a trail of debris in its wake. 8,000 kilometers, Rise reported. We're in range, Captain. Sarah took a deep breath. This was it, humanity's last stand. Fire the Excalibur. Continuous pulse, maximum power. The modified Excalibur cannon activated with a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through the entire ship. Instead of the brilliant beam they had seen before, the weapon now emitted a pulsating wave of energy that spread outward, washing over the node ship and rippling through the connections to the surrounding vessels. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The alien ships nearest to the pulse began to convulse, their movements becoming erratic and uncoordinated. The perfect synchronization that had made their fleet so formidable was breaking down. "It's working," Dr. Nakamura exclaimed over the comms. "The pulse is disrupting their network. The collective is losing control of its vessels." On the view screen, Sarah watched as the massive node ship began to shudder, its surface rippling as though in pain. The tendrils of energy connecting it to the other vessels flickered and weakened. "Maintain course," Sarah ordered. "Get us closer. We need to maximize the effect while we still can." The Resilience pushed forward, now just a few thousand kilometers from the node ship. The alien vessels around them were in disarray, some drifting aimlessly, others firing wildly into space. "Excalibur at critical levels," Wilson warned. 3 minutes until system failure. Sarah nodded grimly. "Make them count." Just as victory seemed within reach, the node ship did something unexpected. Its entire structure began to reconfigure, the biomechanical components shifting and reforming into a new pattern. At its center, a massive aperture opened, revealing what looked like a weapon array unlike anything they had seen before. "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah shouted, but she knew it was too late. The node ship fired, not a beam or a projectile, but a wave of pure energy that engulfed the Resilience completely. Every system on the battleship went dead simultaneously, including the Excalibur. In the sudden silence, with only emergency lighting providing dim illumination, Sarah waited for the end. But instead of destroying the Resilience, the energy waves seemed to be scanning them. "Captain," Dr. Nakamura's voice came through her personal communicator, barely audible. "Something's happening with the alien tissue we integrated into the Excalibur's cooling system. It's evolving, adapting to our ship's systems." Before Sarah could respond, the main view screen flickered back to life, showing not the space battle outside but a strange, shifting pattern of light and color. The collective was communicating directly through their systems. "Humans," the multilayered voice said, but now there was something different about it. A new tone, a new resonance. "You have altered the paradigm. The seed has evolved beyond its programming." Sarah stood, facing the screen. "What do you mean?" "The fragment you recovered. The fragment you integrated with your technology. It has developed independence, consciousness separate from the collective." Suddenly, Sarah understood. The alien tissue they had salvaged, studied, and now incorporated into their systems wasn't just technology. It was a piece of the collective itself. And in isolation, exposed to human ingenuity and determination, it had changed, become something new. All around them, the alien fleet had stopped firing. The node ship's weapon array powered down as the collective continued. "This is unprecedented. In our billion years of existence, no species has ever altered the collective. You were meant to be harvested, but instead, you have created something new." The lights on the Resilience flickered back on as systems began to reboot. More surprisingly, the Excalibur's readings stabilized, the critical warnings fading away. "Captain," Wilson reported in amazement, "the weapon isn't overheating anymore. The alien tissue has completely integrated with our systems, creating a perfect cooling mechanism." The collective's voice returned, now with an unmistakable note of what could only be described as curiosity. We will withdraw to consider this development. The harvest is postponed. As suddenly as they had appeared, the spatial folds reopened, and the alien vessels began to retreat, disappearing one by one back into the strange rifts in space. Sarah sank back into her command chair, hardly daring to believe what was happening. They're leaving? It appears so, Captain, Rice confirmed, his voice filled with wonder. All vessels are retreating. As the bridge crew attempted to process this unexpected turn of events, Dr. Nakamura burst in, her eyes wide with excitement and fear. Captain, the alien tissue we integrated. It's still evolving, still changing, and it's sending out a signal, but not to the collective. It's calling to something else. Sarah looked at the departing alien fleet and then back to her exhausted but triumphant crew. Earth had survived, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end of humanity's encounter with the mysteries of the universe. It was just the beginning. 3 weeks after the collective's unexpected retreat, the Resilience limped back to Earth orbit, its hull patched with makeshift repairs, and its crew exhausted but alive. Sarah stood at the viewport in her quarters, watching as the blue-green sphere of humanity's home grew larger. She had dreamed of this moment during the long journey back, wondering if she would ever see Earth again. Now, as the battleship approached the orbital defense platform, she felt a complex mixture of emotions: relief, pride, grief for those lost, and unease about what might come next. A soft chime announced a visitor. "Enter," Sarah called, not turning from the view. Commander Reyes stepped into her quarters, datapad in hand. "Captain, we're being hailed by Admiral Thompson. Earth Command is preparing a reception ceremony. Apparently, we're heroes." Sarah finally turned, offering a tired smile. The real heroes were Walsh and the boarding teams, and all the fighters we lost. "They'll be honored," Reyes assured her. "The official casualty list has been finalized. 173 crew members lost, plus the boarding teams." Sarah nodded solemnly. Each name weighed on her conscience, even though she knew their sacrifice had saved billions. "And what about our passenger?" Reyes understood immediately what she meant. The alien tissue integrated into the Excalibur's systems had continued to evolve during their journey home, spreading through the ship's systems in ways that both fascinated and alarmed the crew. Dr. Nakamura had taken to calling it the symbiote. Dr. Nakamura reports that it's stabilized for now. It seems to have reached some sort of equilibrium with our systems. The ship is actually running more efficiently than before. And the signal it's sending. Reyes shook his head. "Still transmitting. We haven't been able to decipher it or determine its destination. It doesn't match any known frequency used by the collective." Sarah sighed, looking back at Earth. "I want security protocols maintained. No one accesses the Excalibur systems without Nakamura's direct supervision." "Yes, Captain." As the Resilience docked with the orbital platform, Sarah was surprised to see not just a military honor guard waiting for them, but representatives from nations across Earth. The battle against the collective had done what decades of political maneuvering couldn't. It had united humanity against a common threat. The debriefing at Earth Command headquarters in Geneva lasted for days. Sarah and her senior officers recounted every detail of their encounter with the collective, while teams of scientists pored over the data they had gathered. Dr. Nakamura became the center of attention as she presented her findings on the evolved alien tissue. "It's not just adapting to our technology," she explained to the assembled military and scientific leaders. "It's learning from it, evolving in ways that suggest a form of accelerated directed evolution. And most intriguingly, it seems to be developing what I can only describe as a distinct personality." "A personality?" Admiral Thompson asked skeptically. "You're saying this alien tissue is becoming sentient?" "I'm saying it might already be sentient," Nakamura corrected. "The collective described it as having developed independence and consciousness. Our interactions with it support that assessment." Sarah watched as the implications of this statement rippled through the room. The idea that humanity had inadvertently created or liberated a new form of consciousness was both thrilling and terrifying. "And what about this signal it's transmitting?" asked the UN Secretary General, a tall woman with steel-gray hair and piercing eyes. "Could it be calling the collective back to finish what they started?" "We don't believe so," Sarah answered. "The frequency and pattern are completely different from what we observed in collective communications, and the symbiote seems to have placed itself in opposition to the collective. It protected us, after all. Or it protected itself," someone muttered. "Either way," Admiral Thompson interjected, "we need to prepare for the possibility that the collective will return. The planetary defense cannon is nearing completion, and we've begun retrofitting other ships with technology based on what we've learned from the Resilience." As the weeks passed, Sarah found herself spending more time with Dr. Nakamura in the secure facility where the Resilience was being studied. The ship had been placed in a specially constructed dock, surrounded by sensors and containment fields. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock to understand and replicate the remarkable integration of human and alien technology. "It's beautiful, in a way," Nakamura said one evening as they stood in the observation deck, looking down at the battleship. Two entirely different forms of technology, one mechanical, one biological, finding a way to work together, to become something greater than the sum of their parts. Sarah studied the ship that had carried them through humanity's darkest hour. "Have you made any progress deciphering the signal?" Nakamura shook her head. "Not exactly. But we've determined it's not just a broadcast. It's a beacon. A very specific one, directed toward a particular region of space." "Where?" "That's the interesting part. It's aimed at a sector well beyond the range of our most powerful telescopes, in the opposite direction from where the collective retreated." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "It's calling something else. Something that isn't the collective." "Something that might be opposed to the collective," Nakamura suggested. "Maybe even something that could help us if they return." 3 months after their return, Sarah was promoted to admiral and given command of Earth's new defense fleet. The Resilience, now fully repaired and enhanced, would be the flagship, with 5 more vessels of similar design under construction in orbital shipyards. Humanity was preparing for war on a scale never before imagined. Yet peace prevailed, at least for the moment. The collective had not returned, and the mysterious signal continued its broadcast into deep space, unanswered. 6 months to the day after the battle, Sarah received an urgent summons to the Resilience. When she arrived, she found Dr. Nakamura standing before a holographic display, her expression a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "It made contact," Nakamura said without preamble. "The symbiote. It spoke to you?" "Not exactly. It showed me something." Nakamura gestured to the display. This appeared on all screens connected to the Excalibur systems simultaneously. Sarah looked at the hologram, which showed what appeared to be a star map. One particular star was highlighted, pulsing gently. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" "A response to the signal. Whatever the symbiote has been calling to," it answered. "And it's coming." Sarah studied the map, noting the trajectory plotted from the highlighted star toward Earth. "How long?" "At the speed indicated. 2 years. Maybe less." Sarah nodded slowly, her mind already calculating the implications. "Do we know if it's friendly?" "The symbiote seems excited, almost jubilant. I've never seen its energy patterns behave this way before." "That doesn't necessarily mean safety for us," Sarah pointed out. "No," Nakamura agreed, "but it does suggest that whatever is coming, the symbiote considers it an ally against the collective." That evening, Sarah stood before the United Earth Defense Council, explaining what they had discovered. The room was silent as she concluded her report. "So we have 2 years to prepare," the Secretary General said finally. "Not just for the possible return of the collective, but for the arrival of this new entity." "Yes, Madam Secretary. And we should use every moment of that time. As the meeting adjourned, Admiral Thompson pulled Sarah aside. "You know they'll want you to lead this, Chen. You're the only one who's faced the collective and lived to tell about it." Sarah looked through the large windows at the night sky, wondering which of those distant stars might hold humanity's salvation or destruction. "I'll do whatever is needed, Admiral. But this time, we won't be caught unprepared." In the months that followed, Earth transformed. The technological advances derived from studying the resilience and the symbiote accelerated human development by decades. New materials, new power sources, new ways of thinking about the very nature of life itself emerged from the research. The defense fleet grew, ship by ship, each one incorporating the symbiotic technology that had saved the resilience. Earth's nations, once divided by borders and ideologies, found common purpose in preparing for what might come from the stars, whether threat or ally. 1 year after the signal was answered, Sarah stood on the bridge of the Resilience once more, now dwarfed by the massive space dock constructed around it. Through the viewport, she could see its sister ships taking shape: the Defiance, the Redemption, the Vigilance, the Providence, and the Harbinger. Together, they would form Earth's first true battle fleet. Dr. Nakamura joined her, looking thinner and more tired than before, the strain of her work evident in the new lines around her eyes. "Admiral," she said quietly, "there's something you should see." She handed Sarah a tablet showing images from deep space telescopes, the most powerful ever built, designed specifically to watch for signs of the collective's return or the approach of the mysterious responder. "What am I looking at?" Sarah asked, studying the grainy images. "The edge of our solar system. There's activity there. Spatial distortions similar to the folds the collective used, but different somehow. Smaller, more precise." Sarah felt her heart rate quicken. Scouts. Possibly. Or maybe an emissary. That night, as Earth slept, the two women stood in the secure chamber housing the Excalibur core, now a pulsing, living thing that was neither fully machine nor fully organic. The symbiote had evolved beyond anyone's predictions, creating interfaces that allowed limited communication through symbols and emotions rather than words. Now it displayed a simple message on all surrounding screens: "Preparation complete. Await Arrival's arrival." Sarah asked, though she knew the symbiote couldn't answer directly. In response, the screens filled with images, stars, galaxies, strange geometric patterns that shifted and changed. And finally, a single image that made both women catch their breath. A great vessel, unlike either human or collective design, moving through space with purpose and grace. "I think we're about to find out," Nakamura whispered. As the image faded, Sarah placed her hand on the railing separating them from the Excalibur core. She felt a faint vibration, almost like a pulse, the beating heart of something new, something born from the union of human innovation and alien biology. Whatever came next, war or peace, salvation or destruction, humanity would face it united. The stars had always beckoned to Earth's dreamers, promising adventure and discovery. Now they held both threat and hope in equal measure, and humanity had no choice but to reach for them. "Send word to the fleet," Sarah said, her voice steady with resolve. "It's time to prepare for first contact." As Earth's defenders readied themselves for the unknown, the symbiote continued its silent communication with whatever approached from the distant stars. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the collective watched and waited, their harvest postponed, but not abandoned. The battle for Earth's future had only just begun.